Welcome, guys. We've had the big news. Both Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon have signed for Williams. They're betting their careers on the team who currently lie ninth in the Constructors' Championship. They've scored 11 points this season, and within basically 24 hours, both drivers have decided, yes, I want more of this. Alex Albon committed himself to Williams for 2027, and now Carlos Sainz has gone even further with a new multi-year contract that will see him at Williams beyond 2027. And I think that's much more significant than it sounds initially, because Carlos Sainz isn't a driver desperately trying to stay in Formula One, or he's a four-time Grand Prix winner. He's driven for Toro Rosso, Renault, McLaren, Ferrari, and now Williams. And so why would he commit potentially some of his prime remaining years in F1 at a team currently sitting in ninth place? What have Williams shown him? And more importantly, what do Williams know about where this team is going? Because I think these two contracts tell us quite a lot. Let's get to it. Welcome, guys. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, hit the like. Let's first establish what's actually happened here. Williams confirmed on Tuesday, 18th of August, that Alex Albon has signed an extension. That came first. He'll remain with Williams until 2027. That will make it his sixth season with the team. Then one day later, today, the day of recording, Wednesday, the 19th of August, Williams have confirmed that Carlos Sainz is staying. But there's an important difference. Carlos Sainz hasn't simply signed for 27. They've described it as a multi-year contract. Williams have effectively removed their entire driver lineup from the immediate driver market conversation. And I think that's extremely clever, because while other teams could potentially spend the next year or the rest of this year at least dealing with rumours, negotiations, and drivers looking elsewhere, Williams know exactly who's driving their cars. Albon, Sainz, done. Now they can concentrate on fixing pretty much everything else. But why would Carlos Sainz stay, you ask? And I think that's the part that interests me most, because if you look at purely championship table, this doesn't make much sense at all. Williams finished fifth last year in 25, and there was genuine optimism. Carlos Sainz delivered 2 Grand Prix podiums and a sprint podium during that season. So there was a lot to be positive about. And if you look at Williams, they were finally beginning to climb back towards the front. Then 2026 arrived, the big year, the big promise. And instead of another step forward, Williams have gone backward. They're currently ninth in the championship and don't look like they're going to be heading forward anytime soon. So Carlos Sainz has effectively watched the team go from fifth to ninth and thought, yes, I'll sign a multi-year contract. And that tells me one of two things. Either he's completely lost his mind, or he's seen something inside Williams that's much more encouraging than what we're seeing on Sunday afternoon. And I suspect it's probably the second of the two. Carlos Sainz is betting on the project and not the car, and that's probably the biggest point of this whole video. I think Carlos Sainz isn't signing a contract with Williams that we're of the Williams that we're watching right now. He's signing a contract that with the Williams that James Vowles believes they're building. F1 teams aren't transformed in 6 months. Williams have spent years falling behind infrastructure, processes, manufacturing, technology, personnel. All that takes years to rebuild, and Carlos Sainz is one of the few people who actually gets to see what's behind the curtain. He sees the data, he speaks to the engineers, he knows which people Williams are recruiting, he knows the investment that's being made, and he knows the development targets and what they are, and he's experienced something extremely useful here. He's seen what winning organizations actually look like. He's been inside McLaren, Ferrari. He's worked with some of the best engineers and facilities in F1. So if Carlos Sainz looked around the Williams outfit and thought, this team is going nowhere, why would he sign a multi-year contract? That doesn't mean Williams will become a front runner in the next year or the next couple of years even. But it does suggest that Carlos Sainz thinks the ingredients are beginning to appear. And I think that's the big one. Alex Albon, I think his is a completely different story. You've got to, when you've got to look at Alex, I think actually I actually think his contract means something completely different to Carlos Sainz. Williams didn't just give Alex another opportunity in F1 to rebuild. They rebuilt his career. You've got to remember where Albon was. Red Bull dropped him from the race team after 2020. He spent 21 outside F1. Williams bought him back in 2020, and then since then he's gone from somebody whose F1 career looked potentially finished to one of the most respected and established drivers on the grid. He's now entering his 6th season with the team, and that's pretty extraordinary longevity with a modern F1 team. And that's, I think, the important part here. Williams aren't keeping Albon because they're being sentimental. They're keeping him because he's become one of the foundations of this rebuild. He understands this team. He understands where they've come from. He's driven the bad Williams cars. He's driven the improved ones. He's driven this year's one. He's driven alongside Carlos Sainz, and that continuity will be incredibly valuable for the team. Williams, I think they might have one of the most underrated driver lineups on the grid, and I think this is another one where I'm interested to get your another interesting question to get your comments on. Where would you rank the Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon F1 driver pairing? Because for me, I seriously think they're pretty underrated. Neither driver necessarily gets talked about in the absolute Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris tier. But look at what Williams actually have. Carlos Sainz is a 4-time Grand Prix winner. He's beaten some serious and challenged some serious highly rated teammates. He's driven for Ferrari and McLaren. He's experienced different technical philosophies, different team environment. And then you've got Albon, fast, experienced, and generally technically strong, and somebody who knows Williams better than almost anybody else. You're effectively, you've got one driver bringing the experience in there, and then from some of the biggest F1 teams, and another bringing years of institutional knowledge from the team itself, and from a rebuilding team or for a rebuilding team. I think that's an extremely useful combination, and I think that's where Williams are right now. There's another benefit, the car development, and I think this is something that sometimes really gets overlooked when you're looking at driver contracts. Williams don't just need a driver who can score points. They need drivers who can help them build better Formula One cars. When you're fighting for a championship, finding another 10th here or there is absolutely everything. And when you're rebuilding an organization, you need drivers capable of telling you why the car isn't giving them what they needed. And I think that's where this experience of both become absolutely incredibly valuable. Both Sainz and Albon have driven for different cars produced by different teams, sort of Toro Rosso, Red Bull, Renault, McLaren, Ferrari, and Williams. That's a huge range of technical experience. Carlos Sainz in particular has experienced several completely different engineering cultures, and I think that's valuable information that the team can pick on to try and work out what their own weaknesses are. The big question here is, what does Carlos Sainz know? And I think this is where I'd be slightly provocative, because Carlos Sainz signing for Williams originally made sense. You've got to say his Ferrari seat disappeared when Lewis arrived. The team, the top team options are probably limited. Williams offered him a long-term project, fine. But this contract, you've got to say, is different. This time, Carlos Sainz knows the team. He's seen behind the curtain. He experienced a good season in 25, and he's now experiencing the difficulties of 26. He knows the strengths. He also knows the weaknesses, and after seeing all that, he's signed again. And I think that's why this contract tells us more than the original one. In 24, Williams were selling Carlos Sainz a vision. In 26, Carlos Sainz has actually experienced that vision and seen it being implemented, and he's still buying into it. And I think that's pretty significant here. I think there's risks. We shouldn't pretend that this guarantees Williams suddenly becoming competitive. Now they've got two good drivers. I think Williams fans will be very, very happy that both have signed. I think that's a coup for the team as well, because Carlos Sainz has also taken a gamble here. He's 31. The next few seasons really matter for him. And if Williams spend another 2 or 3 years towards the back of the field, Carlos Sainz could reach the latter end of his F1 career without getting another opportunity at a genuine championship winning car. So this contract isn't just Williams showing faith or Williams showing faith in Sainz. It's Sainz also showing enormous amount of faith in the Williams team as well. And I think that's why I find this story fascinating, and especially where you see the team at this moment in time, because Carlos Sainz have effectively placed a bet. He's betting on the Williams of 27, 28 and beyond. And it won't look anything like the Williams that's sitting in the 9th place in the championship, and that's kind of what he's hoping for. Williams, I think they've done a good job here. This is clever, removing one of the huge distractions for them as a team. The driver speculation can completely consume the team at times, and especially when you've got someone of Carlos's caliber, every time a potential seat becomes available, the question is, could Carlos go there? Every time a driver struggles, could Williams lose Sainz? Every press conference, another contract question, and they've killed that conversation completely, Williams, with the 27 lineup sorted pretty early. The internal message becomes quite simple. We've got the drivers, now give them the car. The verdict on this one, I think that's ultimately how I see these contracts. You've got to say it. This isn't a story about Williams keeping Carlos and Albon. It's a story about Williams buying themselves something that arguably is probably even more important and more valuable, and that's stability. You've got 2 experienced drivers, no immediate driver market drama, continue through a massive rebuild program, and 2 drivers who clearly believe in the project and that it can work. Albon staying, it probably isn't the most surprising thing. He's become pretty synonymous with this modern Williams rebuild, but Carlos Sainz committing a multi-year contract and a multi-years to the project. I think that's the one I'm watching. Carlos Sainz, he's been inside Ferrari, he's been inside McLaren. He knows what competition and a good team looks like. And after almost 2 seasons inside Williams, he's decided to stay. I think that tells us something about where Williams are heading. Or maybe Carlos has just made one of the biggest gambles of his F1 career. We'll find out. But I would want to know what you guys think. Will Williams win a race with Sainz and Albon? And even bigger than that, could either of these 2 actually stand on a podium for Williams again before the end of 2027? Because that's the big gamble for the pair of them. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. But thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, see you on the next one.